So I want to reset because this next storyteller needs their own individual energy and applause. Our next storyteller is Ann Abel. Give it up for Ann Abel. There we go.
When I was growing up, my mother would say, "Ann, I was only 22 when you were born. I did not want to have you. I had other things I wanted to do." My father rarely spoke to me, except at the dinner table when he'd say, "You can listen, but don't speak." But I loved my parents, and I so wanted to do whatever I could to please them and get them to love me back. I was only 11 when my mother began warning me, "If you don't marry someone Jewish, we'll disown you." I didn't know exactly what disown meant, but whenever she said it, I'd picture myself floating all alone in a dark outer space. The summer before my senior year in high school, my mother sent me to Israel to work on a kibbutz. I didn't want to go, but to please her, I went. I met a boy there, and at the end of the summer, I went home and said to my mother, "I'm in love, and I'm going back to Israel next summer." I was so happy. I'd done two things my mother wanted: go to Israel and find a Jewish husband. She responded with a cold silence, confusing me and crushing me, and I spent the next 2 weeks face down on my bed sobbing. One night soon after, I was on my bed doing my homework when my father appeared in my doorway, startling me. "Your mother just told me you are not taking math this year. If you don't make up for this, your life will be a waste. This summer, you'll take calculus in summer school, and if you want us to pay for college, you'll go to engineering school and major in chemical engineering." "Dad, I'm going back to Israel next summer." His ice blue eyes glared at me. My father is not someone you argue with, so I was surprised to hear myself saying, "But Dad, I've never gotten above a C in math." "Your mother and I know better than you. And your mother also told me she doesn't want you going back to Israel or marrying that kibbutznik boyfriend." I was stunned. "Dad, she said she wanted me to marry someone Jewish." "You're not going, you're taking calculus." I was heartbroken, but I truly loved and respected my parents and wanted to do whatever I could at any cost to get them to love and accept me. So I did take calculus in summer school, and I did major in chemical engineering. At the beginning of each semester, I'd go to the library, open a textbook, and say to myself, "You can do this." But by the middle of the first page, my mind was numb. Once in a new math course, I leaned over to the boy sitting next to me and said, "What's that squiggle he keeps drawing on the board?" The boy looked at me, his eyes popping out of his head, and said, "You don't know what a partial derivative is?" I absolutely did not. But I was determined not to quit. I was determined to get through that program and please my parents. At the end of senior year, the day final grades were released, I nervously went to the registrar's office to see if I'd passed my courses and be able to graduate. When I saw that I had, I was excited beyond belief, and I couldn't wait to tell my parents. I ran to the nearest phone booth, dropped a dime in the slot, and called my father. "Dad, I did it. I'm graduating. I am a chemical engineer." Uncharacteristically, he chuckled. Then he said, "Now I can write that article for Science magazine about teaching a monkey to be a chemical engineer." I felt like I'd been kicked in the stomach, and I leaned back against the wall of the phone booth to keep myself from folding onto the grimy metal floor. I realized then that no matter what I did, my parents were never going to love or accept me. I did go on to marry a Jewish husband, and for extra credit, we had 3 very Jewish sons. My mother didn't want me when I was born, and she didn't want me with my lovely Jewish family. For years, I struggled with the deep, raw sadness that my parents couldn't love me. But one day, after hanging up the phone with my mother, my face wet with tears, I turned and saw my 12-year-old son Joseph standing in the doorway looking at me. "Was that Grandma?" I nodded. "Mommy, we are your family now, and we love you." And they do, and that is enough. Thank you.